Okay. It's recording, but you can talk. I'll cut it off.
Okay. I can, yeah, this is better. I like to hear myself with both.
Okay. Oh my God. Hello. I realized that I start every episode with, oh my God. Hi. How are you? Are you good? All right. So what are we going to talk about? We're talking about motherfucking Book of Enoch. And I don't think any of you know what this is. And I'm only being arrogant because I didn't know what this was before. So first, I'd like to preface this episode with the fact that I know the past few episodes have been serial killers, like the past 7. And I needed a break. And this isn't really a true crime situation. This is like an all things strange and unusual type of podcast. And in this case, we're going to talk about religion and science. And in this case, it probably has something to do with aliens because it's me. And if that's the case, then Sal motherfucking Carmona is here.
Hello, everyone.
He is a resident alien lover. We both mutually obsess, inject, snort, smoke, drink, shit, piss, eat aliens.
Not
ancient,
all in that order.
Ancient aliens. Now, I don't know if y'all remember, but when Sal was here last, we did the Mothman episode. And on that episode, I asked Sal to be Giorgio Tsoukalos. If you don't know who that is, Google it. That's TSOUK.
TSO.
TSOUKA-less. 1 year for Halloween. So I'm a huge Ancient Alien fucking fan. If you all do not know what Ancient Alien is, I actually feel like I've been on a parade trying to convince people to watch Ancient Aliens. And I don't like, it's in its 18th season. So I've been on it. You've been on it. We've been on it for a minute since damn near the beginning of the show. And so, it's now becoming more a part of, I don't know, I don't want to say the lexicon, but even in Nope, when he references Ancient Aliens.
Yeah.
It's such a well-produced, thorough fucking show. And I feel like I have gone on a marketing parade, a publicity tour to convince people that they should watch it because I feel like it is, there's so much information there from all angles. We talking biology, physics, archaeology for sure. Because what I love about them too is they do not dismiss the fact that archaeologists have put in a lot of work. It's just that they hate the fact that archaeologists are so stuck on whatever they think the story is.
Right.
And they're not opening it up for other possibilities. Especially in the moments that are mysterious, like the fucking pyramids or the fucking, you don't have any information. All of your sciences, everything you use for dating, for everything isn't working yet.
Right.
You're like, I guess we're just going to have to chuck it up to mystery. Okay. Yeah.
And then they said we're just going to chalk it up to calling it a wonder. 7 wonders of the world.
A wonder.
A wonder.
How offensive.
An enigma. Let's not figure it out.
How offensive is that? That's incredibly offensive. I think that, at the end of the day, we humans have evolved enough where we should really be able to take in that information without there being a fucking purge. I don't think it's ever going to get that intense.
Me neither.
But I guess you can't have everybody on planet Earth on a path to true enlightenment where they fully understand who they are, what they are, and why they are here.
Right.
So mystery it will have to be. Now, with that being said, I bought Sal a gift. I actually forgot that I had it. It wasn't intentional to give it to you on here, but it's right here. And I was like,
that's what the box is.
This is the box. And I was like, how did I miss giving this to you? So I'm going to give it to you now. And actually, it's fitting.
For this episode?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Hold on.
Hold on. Okay. And so I felt I wanted to buy you something because one, not only has he been my rehab during my sinus surgery.
It's a glass, everyone. It's a little shorty. It says ancient astronaut theories.
Theorists.
Ancient astronaut theorists say yes.
You know,
if you watch the show, you'll know what we're talking about.
It's such a
that is so appropriate.
There's two in there.
There's two of them. It's like it's a set. It's
yeah.
a set.
And you also were my convalescence home when my boyfriend was acting like a fool and tried to beat me the fuck up.
Damn.
The least I could do is buy motherfuckers some liquor glasses.
Yeah, she came to me to convalesce.
Which is also my, that's kind of my go-to. It's like the second pair of glasses I bought for you.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know why that just feels appropriate. I guess we were drinkers, but whatever.
We're drinkers, so what else are you going to do?
So anyway, what Sal is drinking, because I'm not drinking. I'm on antibiotics. He was drinking the original cocktail, which ended up just tasting like laudanum.
It tasted like fucking hot licorice.
Here's the thing. You don't always get them right. I actually found this recipe randomly and I was like, oh, what's a cool absinthe one? It's kind of like an absinthe hot toddy. It's like cranberry juice, lime juice, and honey. And then you throw in some absinthe, whatever. You all won't like it, but you should try it. I just firmly believe everybody should try a little bit of absinthe. A little bit of absinthe in their life.
Did you just call it an accident?
I said abstinent.
Accident.
All right. So I'm not drunk, even though I sound like I am. So this should be fun anyway.
Mind over matter.
I'm a little stoned. Now, so we're going to talk about the Book of Enoch. Now, I'm excited to talk about the Book of Enoch because when I learned about it, I was like, damn, how did I miss this episode? And I got it from Ancient Aliens originally, obviously, because who the fuck else is talking about the Book of Enoch, right? So kind of went in a rabbit hole very briefly, but then I visited the episode again and I was like, ooh,
interesting.
I need to know a little bit more. So like one of my sources for this, Eric Von Daniken, who is actually probably a producer at this point of Ancient Aliens, along with Giorgio Tsoukalos, or Tsoukalos. He wrote a book called History is Wrong, where he basically compiles different things like the Book of Enoch's mysterious pieces of like literature, kind of. But the Book of Enoch, the Voynich manuscript, I haven't finished the book, but there is a connection to this, the Voynich manuscript. So because I was like, I'm already like, I got a decent amount of pages. I was like, I'm not going to throw in the Voynich manuscript because I will never, this will be like a 3-parter.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
So things are all so very connected that I felt like it was necessary to mention that. And also there's a nice little connection to the mysteriousness of the pyramids. And we're going to talk about that too. Cool. Now, so let's do this.
All right. Yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm eager to hear like what you found because my references on this. I know about it. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It was cool. It's also interesting. I do want to say, while I appreciate Eric Von Daniken for the work that he's done, and I'm not dismissing it, he's such a wild man.
Wild, you say?
Like he because he's so passionate that I feel like it makes him come off a little crazy. And I think you have to, sometimes it's about having the right messenger. That's what I love about the fact that they have like these resident scientists on Ancient Aliens now. You're not just relying on these talking heads, but they are always on there and their opinion, and you watch them go to these different places, like, ooh, I'm going to Machu Picchu, I'm doing this. Like you get to explore that with them. And then for them to have like the architect, now they got a rabbi.
Yeah, they have a whole circle.
Yeah, well, they've had him for a while. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
astrophysicist, a rabbi.
Yeah. An architect. They were like, look, we need somebody who can explain to us, compared to modern technology, what is this? Is any of this truly possible? Mm-hmm. All right. So First of all, you're probably thinking, who the fuck is Enoch? It's a very, it almost has like a science name to it. You know what I mean? Like it should be in a Star Wars movie. It's not to me. And, obviously I don't know every name in religion ever, but it doesn't give you biblical. It gives you sci-fi.
It does sound like a made up name.
Yeah. So Enoch was a biblical figure. He was known as the king over all men, and he reigned for 243 years. He is said to be one of the 10 patriarchs who ruled before the flood, and he's the son of Jared. Now, this is a quote. In the Bible, Enoch is dealt with in 5 sentences. There's Genesis 5, verse 21 to 24. 21, when Enoch had lived 65 years, he became the father of Methuselah. 22, and after he became the father of Methuselah, Enoch walked with God 300 years and had other sons and daughters. Verse 23, although Enoch lived 365 years, Enoch, and then that's one sentence. And then the 24th is Enoch walked with God, then he was no more because God took him away. Those are the 5 lines that are in the Bible that reference Enoch.
Currently in the Bible.
Yes. This man has a whole other story, and you've mentioned him 5 times. So the word Enoch means the initiated one, or the insightful one, or the skilled one. It's also believed that he was like the part of the bloodline of Nebuchadnezzar I, who was like a Babylonian, a Babylonian ruler. Now, obviously, we can't DNA test that, so not yet. No, and some people just feel like they want to just be related to really, really holy people. So who knows? Now, Enoch is a subject in many religions, actually, and his name changes depending on the text. So he could be called Sarid or Hermes, which I'm like, is that what the purse company uses?
Hermes is that Islamic? What is that?
Yeah, it's Greek. I think it's Greek. Idris, and then Enoch. In ancient Egypt, Enoch was the builder of the Great Pyramids. Now, this didn't become a concept until somebody wrote a book about it in like the 1400s. And the book was called The Kiat, which was written by Muhammad al-Markizi. And he was an Egyptian historian back then. Now they say, quote, the first Hermes, who was named thrice in his capacity as prophet, king, and wise man. It is he who Hebrews name Enoch, son of Jared, son of Mahalalel, son of Kenan, son of Enos, son of Seth, and Adam. Praised be his name, and that is Idris. He read in the stars that the flood would come. Then he had the pyramids built and hid within them treasures, learned books, and everything which he feared could be otherwise lost, so that those things would remain safe. If the pyramids were built by Enoch in the story as either AKA Sarid or Enoch or whatever you want to call him, then, quote, one can read in the Kiat that Sarid, who is Enoch, has decorated the interior of the Eastern Pyramid, allegedly Cheops Pyramid, with the various canopies of the skies and the planets. In addition to books about the stars, also the fixed stars that which betakes to happen from time to time, as well as the events of the past. So this is basically saying that Enoch built the pyramids to keep the secrets that he was receiving, to write them down and have them in a safe space in the pyramids. But obviously,
it was like his own library.
It was like a library. It was like an archive. And if you want to prove that, it basically says go to the Eastern Pyramid, which is that one of those pyramids between the Great Pyramid or on either side. But this is the Eastern one. There would be various canopies of skies and planets. So of course, that would be the test, and they actually tried to do that. They went into that part of the pyramid, and they didn't see the canopies, but what they did see was like these brackets in the wall that they think held canopies.
So the evidence of something being there is there. Mm-hmm. Just what was held is not.
Exactly. Now, to me, because to me, like that, you would think you prove such a small thing. You prove a lot, actually. There was nothing on the wall, so it's not like it's not like there was remnants of like shards of it or anything. It was just that there were these like strange.
It's like the hook. It's like the hook is left on the wall, but the picture's not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, he said this. He said, in the Grand Gallery, the grandiose entrance hall to the King's Chamber, there are large metal brackets that are mentioned nowhere in scholarly literature. It could well be that these brackets were once holders for gold panels, and that in ancient times, the Grand Gallery was a fantastic stairway to the King's Chamber, flanked left and right with the tidings from the past. So in Cheops Pyramid, there's a bunch of these different rooms, but the Antiquities Administration in Egypt doesn't want to keep any of that. It doesn't want any of that to be public, because the thing is, over time, motherfuckers were breaking in and stealing shit.
Yeah,
that's
looting.
The thing.
All the mass loots.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's like they could have been up there because the brackets are up there, but they also could have been stolen. Now, it is believed that there must be other parts of this book hidden, and the pyramids is a good idea. There's also, it's like, it was like an archive or whatever, but there's like this room, and I'm sure you saw it on the show, that they say is about as tall as the Statue of Liberty in there, and they have not made it in there yet.
Yeah, because they're afraid that they're going to just destroy.
Which I'm like, you think you're going to destroy the Great Pyramids? Because now this is what's interesting. Because I did write that in. So the Great Pyramid of Giza was bombed, and it was bombed by Weiss. He was the one that claimed that he found a cartouche of Khufu. That's why the pyramid has been misdated for so long, because they thought that Khufu built it. But what he did is he broke into a pyramid and forged the fucking wall, because the cartouches back then were vertical. His was horizontal.
He basically graffitied the place.
He graffitied the place because he was low on cash. They were going to shut down his discovery, so he needed to discover. They were going to shut down his expedition.
So he planted.
So
stuff. He planted like something in there, saying like, "Oh, look what I found," but it wasn't right. It wasn't true.
It wasn't.
What a dick.
It wasn't. What a douche. So, but yes. So there's that. Now, it's believed that the Sumerians, we love them. They had 10 kings rule between the creation and the flood. That's totaling 456,000 years. Then, after the flood, they sent one more king from the heavens. There would be 23 more kings after the flood, reigning almost 25,000 years. The seventh this word fucked me up. I'm going to try to do it. Antediluvian. Let's hope.
Explain yourself.
Antediluvian basically means pre-flood. So that was the period of time, obviously, from the creation to the flood. And then everything after that is post-flood.
Post-flood.
Now, but what people forget too is at that time, who is this? Okay. I got whatever. Sorry. I don't know where I was. Oh, so pre-flood, post-flood. That's what we were talking about. And then, so the ancient Sumerians divided the world between pre-flood and post-flood eras. And the former was when the gods walked the earth with humans. Mm-hmm. And post-flood is after the flood, meaning that humans were now immortal. Or they were mortal, sorry. And the gods, they distanced themselves. So that's really the definition of pre and post flood with the kind of with the Sumerians.
Makes sense of what I remember about all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So now, according to Von Daniken, this is the earliest written record of ascension. He also mentions how Enoch's Sumerian interpretation helped inspire Judaism. And there's actually some references. I got some too, but they say they don't know. I mean, obviously they can't really know how true that is, mm-hmm. But he does claim that there are parts of the Enoch story sprinkled in the Judaism texts, which I'm like, I mean, I guess. Yeah, sure. Because
Sure.
it's kind of in everything. It's also claimed that the Book of Enoch was written by several Jewish people, priests, so they can show like personification of Jewish people. But Von Daniken's tone in this particular topic is a little like, he's a little aggressive. Because he's obviously not religious, but I think the idea that this is just like some Jewish isolated event is what kind of annoyed him. And then I looked him up. I was like, okay, he's Swiss. He's not German.
Correct. Like he's not trying to be like.
But I mean, I was like, I can't.
Maybe he's just more scientific.
I think he is. Yeah, he is. He's more scientific. So why does Enoch even have a book? His book was apparently found in Ethiopia, Africa. There was a Scottish thief by the name of James Bruce. He came to London with 3 copies of Enoch texts. Now, basically, when the Bible was canonized in the 4th century, they had a bunch of texts. Some was fragmented, some was just incomprehensible, and some was just flat out incomplete. And they were like, we don't really know what this says. And it would later be referred to as the Apocrypha and the pseudo-epigraphs.
Sure. I've heard of the Apocrypha before.
So Apocrypha means hidden things, and pseudo-epigrapha means pseudonymous writings, especially Jewish writings, ascribed to various biblical patriarchs. So that is actually a biblical term, pseudo-epigrapha. It's could have made it a little easier, but whatever. So
they just want to make all the difficult words. Like, nope.
It's like, come on. So now different versions of the book will start to pop up. The Enoch text is not canonized by Christianity or the Jewish faith, but is a part of an Ethiopian Jewish community called the Beta Israel, or the Haymanot Jews. Now, they only acknowledge the original text written in Ge'ez, which is that ancient language. Von Daniken's biggest issue, though, is the fact that the theologians murkied the water when they started to inject religious-based opinions into it. Now, it is recognized, even though it's not part of the canon, by Mormons too. The LDS Church uses the Book of Moses as a part of the scripture, so thereby they recognize the Book of Enoch.
The Latter-day Saints.
Yes, Latter-day Saints. Now, if translated at face value, Daniken believes that we would know the true history of all of this. But because we inject so much religion, we change some names, everything gets weird, the story gets mixed up, remixed. We don't know what we have anymore. So one of the issues here is language. Enoch would have no idea how to fully describe any of his experiences. He wouldn't be able to use words nowadays like we have, like mothership. Right. He wouldn't know rocket. He don't have those words. So in Daniken's opinion, everything that he experienced had to be paraphrased. So that he would even be in a position to describe it. He had a good example here. He said, just you try to describe a helicopter or a radio to a Stone Age man. He's like, you inevitably end up in some kind of it looks like this, looks like that type of game. He said, or try explaining a spiral staircase to somebody without using any pictures, which I was like in my head trying to actually explain this. Yeah. I was like, so you go, I'm using my hands.
See, I know, right? You can't even do it without actually.
Now, I'd also like to add, and this is apparently the first eyewitness account of anything where he actually used the word I as in first person.
Like I myself.
This is my experience. So as time go by, and we know this happens. Perfectly ordinary space travelers become angels and cherubim. Officers become archangels, and the supreme commander becomes the most high, or even worse, God. What pandemonium when a simple electrical charge is transformed into the tongue of fire, and a command bridge becomes the indescribable glory. it's understandable that from a theological point of view, the captain's chair of command is transformed into a mighty throne, and an incomprehensible mismatch of similitudes is turned into stories or visions. So I also feel, let's not forget that ETs also turn into angels. You know what I mean? Like, that ancient language attempted to learn and understand these really complex concepts without the words to truly explain it. And obviously ancient gods, all of these references to ancient gods and all these different civilizations. The question they're asking is, were they extraterrestrials? And see, people also get fucked up because they like to have this whole, you start talking about aliens, they immediately think little green men. No, that's Hollywood shit.
Right. That's something that's been put into our consciousness as what aliens are.
Yeah.
Anything extraterrestrial just means of not Earth.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that it is something physical. I mean, angels technically are extraterrestrial.
They are. 100%. I mean, heaven is technically the universe, outer space, beyond this Earth. Right. So if you are assuming, like, do you think that they just live around in the clouds in this atmosphere? Even if you have the religious opinion that this is an angel, where did it come from, my dude?
Right.
You like to look up to the sky. Why do you think you like to look up to the sky? Why do you think that that's something you should worship? Because as human beings, that's something you don't understand. And what you also don't understand, you don't understand astrophysicists or astrophysics. You don't understand time. You don't understand infinity. You don't understand gravity. You don't understand light. So you telling me, if you look at it from a scientific standpoint, that all of a sudden what you do understand is that there are no aliens?
Right. All of a sudden that is not a subject to be discussed because, I mean, all day long you can say, baby Jesus and the grown one too.
Sure.
But you can't talk about where all these things have... what are the other possibilities of other life forms or other life forces?
Forces, yes, for sure.
Not just God, because, everyone always just believes in one God.
Absolutely. It's definitely got to be more. Yeah.
It's too much. You can't dismiss.
You can't dismiss anything. And that's...
It's like us being... I can't dismiss that there really is a God that created us. I can't dismiss that from somebody else because that's their belief.
Sure.
That's what gets you through the day. Cool.
Sure.
But for me, I feel like there are other things out there.
Sure. I agree. And I think it's arrogant to think anything else. I think that we have developed through whatever happened. I don't know. I wasn't there. Right. We have developed to this point where we think that we are way beyond our own creation.
Yeah, we can't be the top of the food chain.
No.
In the universe.
Do you see TikTok? Do you think that is where? That's where? Is that the barometer?
That's it? That's what we got?
That's how we measuring this shit? You think that is the dumb, silly shit, the human weird shit that we do, the chaos that we create. You gonna tell me that
that's why we exist?
That's why we exist? I doubt it. No. Let me continue because we'll talk about that as well. The fact that creation, that gets deeper. So the Enoch test has 3 books. It has 1 Enoch, 2 Enoch, and 3 Enoch. 2 Enoch is sometimes called the Secrets of Enoch. The third one has a couple of names. It could be the Book of Palaces, the Book of Rabbi Ishmael, the High Priest, and the Revelation of Metatron. Now, the texts of Enoch would later be identified as parables. We know that this is a part of the original biblical text. We know that because if you look at the history, they removed it from the original biblical text.
It was extracted from the original writings.
Now, we don't even have to get in the conversation of all these fucking rulers and shit who created their own Bibles. But what they knew was that not the scrolls. The Book of Enoch was so messed up by the time they discovered it, they don't know what order it truly is supposed to be in. And there are things that are missing. So the text is sometimes distorted because they don't know the true order. So we're going to look at the text. There's the Book of Watchers, which I'm going to talk about. 1 Enoch, that's chapters 1 through 36. There's the Book of Parables of Enoch. That's also Enoch 1, 37 to 71. Then there's the astronomical book. That is book number 1, 72 to 82. It's also called the Book of Heavenly Luminaries or the Book of Luminaries. Then there's the Book of Dream Vision. That's Enoch 1, 83 to 90. And then there's the Epistle of Enoch. And that is, or is it epistle? Whatever. 91 through. I'm just like, this is the worst time to read this. So this is from the Hebrew text. And he said unto me, observe, Enoch, these heavenly tablets, read what is written thereon, and mark you well every single fact. And I observed the heavenly tablets and read and read everything which was written thereon. This is later. And now, my son Methuselah, all these things I am recounting to thee and writing down for thee. Preserve, my son Methuselah, the books thou hast received from thy father's hand, and deliver them to the generations of the world. Now, Von Daniken's asking, why did he even have to do this? Why does he feel compelled to do this? If they were just dreams, like a lot of religions, like visions, to call it religions. Yeah, it's why did he feel the need to write his dreams down?
Yeah, he felt compelled.
Compelled. So why was it so important to share these stories to the generation of the world? Well, it's pretty simple. His contemporaries at the time were just not capable of understanding those concepts, and they were intended for us. That's Von Daniken's opinion.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
He said it. He actually says, and that's not my interpretation. That's from the book itself.
Like it's
in the book. It's in the book. This is a clear-cut case of this ain't got nothing to do with y'all. Mankind, y'all don't know shit right now. Mm-hmm. But I need you to write this down so later somebody who can read it.
Yeah, he received the information. It's like receiving instructions on how to build a plane, but I don't know how to build a plane yet. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Somebody else will figure this out later. Right. They'll build the plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if you don't even know it's a plane, though.
Absolutely. So basically, Enoch's mission was to document extraterrestrial intervention on Earth in order to help along the creation of human life. That was the point. So there are other ancient texts that refer to the same experience but have different names. The Book of Daniel even references entities that had control over the world. Now, the first 5 chapters of the Book of Enoch announce, allegedly, some kind of last judgment. The God of heaven will leave his abode and descend to earth with his legion of angels. The following 11 chapters describe what happens to the so-called apostate angels who, in direct contravention to God's commandments, defiled themselves with the daughters of men.
Oh, they made the Ophelias or something?
The
Nephilia.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
The Nephilis. These angels were given tasks by their God that were so precise that they just don't fit in with the cohorts of the heavenly hosts. For example, Simshaza taught enchantments. This was one of the ones. The root cuttings. Armaros, he was the resolving of enchantments. Barakadal, he taught astronomy. Kokobel, he taught the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Arachiel, the signs of the earth. Shamsiel, the signs of the sun. Sariel, the course of the moon. And so by chapter 17 to 36, they describe Enoch's journeys to the various worlds and distant spheres.
AKA other galaxies and other planets.
Thank you. So theologians call these similitudes or parables, or Enoch's journey to the magical garden, the garden of righteousness. Then you got chapter 72 through 82. They are known as the astronomy chapters. And this is where Enoch receives instruction about the orbits of the sun and the fucking moon.
Wow.
He also learns about leap years. He learns about the stars, and he learns about celestial mechanics. The remaining chapters contain conversations with his son Methuselah in which he announces the coming flood. The whole thing is crowded by Enoch's departure, or the whole thing's crowned by Enoch's departure on a fiery chariot. So, in the Slavonic Book of Enoch, that it has like crazy interesting details that can't be found in like another version called the Absinthe version. But he said, after this too, I lived 200 years and completed all the years of my life, 365 years. On the first day of the first month, I was in the house alone, and there appeared to me 2 men of enormous size, the likes of which I never saw on earth. Their faces were like the sun. Their eyes, too, were like burning light. Their lips came coming fire. Their clothing and song were splendid. Their wings were brighter than gold. Their hands whiter than snow. They were standing at the head of my couch and called me by my name. I arose from my sleep and saw clearly those 2 men standing in front of me. I saluted them and was seized with fear, and the appearance of my face was changed from terror. And those men said to me, quote, have courage, Enoch, do not fear. The eternal God sent us to thee. And lo, today thou shalt ascend with us to the heaven, and thou shalt tell thy sons and all thy household, all that they shall do with thee on earth in thy house. Let no one seek thee till the Lord return thee to them. The theological interpretation that the antediluvian patriarch is experiencing a vision or a dream here is not tenable. This is Van Daniken's opinion. Enoch awakes, gets up from his bed, and then proceeds to give his kinsfolk instructions as to what they are to do in his absence. The death vision, quote unquote, variation also makes no sense, as Enoch returns to his family after his trip to outer space. And the Lord summoned one of his archangels.
And the Lord summoned one of his angels.
His name was Pravui, whose knowledge was quicker in wisdom than the other archangels, who wrote all the deeds of the Lord. And the Lord said to Pravui, bring out the books from my storehouses and take a reed of quick writing and give it to Enoch and deliver to him the choice and comforting books out of thy hand. And it was told me all the works of heaven and earth and sea and the elements, their passages and goings and the thunderings of the thunder, the sun and the moon, the goings and the changing of the stars, the seasons, the years, the days, the hours, the rising of the wind. And for 30 days and 30 nights he spake, never stopping. So
shoot.
He spoke for 30 days, telling what he needed to have written down.
Right.
All of his knowledge. Von Daniken's opinion is that we should look at the ancients with modern eyes as they intended to be examined. To acknowledge the Book of Enoch, to me, is to like kind of have like a prophecy situation there.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
And if his word is only supposed to reach the minds of people in the future, the Book of Enoch is literally like the first time capsule. And that's why they believe that the pyramid is kind of a time capsule. Enoch will write the word and pass it on to his son Methuselah so he could deliver them to the next generation. And that's before his final journey to the heavens.
Oh, so he went up once, came back down, and this was his final journey back.
Now we're going to talk about the Watchers. Now, the first book, the Book of the Watchers, let's talk about the descent of 200 fallen angels.
Yes. Okay.
These are,
I kind of remember.
Yeah, 200 sons of heaven. And it came to pass when the children of men had multiplied that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. But then the angels, the children of heaven, saw them. They lusted after them and said to one another, come, let us choose our wives from among the children of men and beget us children. And Simjaza, who was the leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, quote, let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves by multiple imprecations, which is spoken curse, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then they all swore together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And they were numbered 200 who descended in the days of Jared upon the summit of Mount Hermon. So they
made a pact.
They were let's we go in this ride or die. Mm-hmm. So angels kind of work like a gang. Or kind of like a mutinous band of pirates, because they kind of had this all for one and one for all, like
rape and pillage.
Yeah,
pretty much.
So the Watchers, that is what Enoch called them, and they were to watch over Earth and control what happened to Earth. They instead shared their skills, and then they mated with humans. Now, the question is, did they plant the seed of who we are today? Because it kind of feels like maybe they did. We see this behavior a lot, though, in biblical texts. It also goes to show why we are all kind of here and why we are the way we are, because 200 angels just fell out the sky and decided they were going to rape a bunch of bitches. And it just feels like a very human thing to do.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of like, this is where, like Freud was talking about that ego, the super ego. It's kind of like our carnal, primitive self is actually of these fallen angels. Because we originally weren't supposed to be like that, or were not like that.
It's like we're wired that way.
Yeah.
Like it's just in our DNA, in our...
Yeah. And that's why we could be so nasty to each other. Now, we see where these fallen angels have manipulated human existence in multiple cultures, including the Incans, the Mayans, the Egyptians, the Chinese, and namely, as everybody probably knows, the Sumerians, the good old Anunnaki, their texts. Now, Enoch does list the key players in the angels. He actually lists 21 of them.
21 of the angels?
By name. Shemzaza. There's one that's called Azazel, who later was called Lucifer. So, Azazel, this isn't the Lucifer one. Their names are also very, very similar. So, there was this one, his name was Asa. He taught men to make swords and knives and shields and breastplates. So clearly he's almost like a god of war. Then he said he also made known to them the metals of the earth, the art of working them.
Alchemy.
And bracelets and ornaments. And then he talks about Shemjaza, who took on enchantments and root cutting. And then Barak Kajal, he taught astrology. Coco Bell, he taught constellations. We talk about that. Ezekiel was the knowledge of the clouds, and so on and so forth. Now, Barak Kajal turned out to be an astronomer, and Kokabal was an astrologer. So, like, to me, like, science that kind of doesn't really mean much in those days. You know,
right. Well, it didn't mean much to the humans, though, but
that's
they
what
brought
I mean.
the knowledge.
They brought it. And so, okay, wait, did I just scroll? Shit, I think I scrolled. Okay, so yeah, here we are. So then they even had like a meteorologist, which is the knowledge of the clouds. You had the Great Glory, which was what he thinks was like a starship commander. Then there were the chiefs. The name of the first was Jikan, who was the one who led astray all of the sons of God and brought them down to earth, and then led them astray through the daughters of men. And then there was the second one. His name was Asbil, and he imparted to the holy sons of God evil counsel. So I'm like, these motherfuckers are flawed. So the 200, you know, they did all this shit. They've been mating. They've been having a good old time. Like, Earth is like Vegas to these motherfuckers. And
so they were just on a ship. It was Bachelor Ship 200. What up?
Woo, woo, woo.
We about to get these bitches.
So the 200 are kind of like freaking out. And they come down, and they ended up, they didn't really have an understanding of what the repercussions were going to be. They were like, how much trouble are we going to get in? Because we're like really...
It really was a weekend trip to Vegas.
So they send Enoch up to space to put in a good word.
To tell them everything's fine, everything's good down here.
It's cool. It's not as bad as it looks.
Yeah.
So
it's not as bad as what you heard.
He says, quote, "They lifted me upward and bore me into heaven, and I went in till I drew nigh to a wall built of crystals and surrounded by tongues of fire, and it began to scare me. And I went into the tongues of fire and approached a large house which was built of crystals. The walls of the house were like a tiled floor made of crystals, and its foundation was also of crystal. Its ceiling was like the path of the stars and the lightnings, and between them were fiery cherubim, and their heaven was as water, a flaming fire. What their heaven was as water? That's floating.
Yeah.
That's fucking floating. Like that's what fucking astronauts do. When you leave our atmosphere. You leave all
atmospheric gravity and you
just float.
You just feel it. You just move along.
And their heaven was as water. A flaming fire surrounded the walls, and its portals blazed with fire. There was a second house, greater than the former, and all its doors stood open before me, and it was built of flames of fire. And in every respect, it so excited in splendor and magnificence and extent that I cannot describe to you its splendor and its extent. And he said, it was floor of fire, and above it were lightning and the path of stars. And its ceiling also was blazing fire. And I looked and saw therein a lofty throne. Its appearance was as crystal, and the wheels thereof as the shining sun, and the great glory set thereon. And his raiment shone more brightly than the sun, and was whiter than any snow. He then goes on to say, "Fear not, Enoch, thou righteous man and scribe of righteousness, approach hither and hear my voice, and go, say to the watchers of heaven, who have sent thee to intercede for them, you should intercede for men, and not men for you. Wherever have ye left the high holy and eternal heaven, and lain with women, and defiled yourselves with the daughters of men, and taken to yourselves wives, and done like the children of earth?" Like, snapping, okay? So what they did to deal with the vile offspring of the falling angels, which were the Nephilim, yes, giants, the great glory, which seems to be to me, low-key feels like, when I was reading it, like it's a voice in a speaker box. Like, if you press the intercom,
like the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because when you read it, it's like there's not a person there. He's not talking to a person. He's just in a room and hears a loud voice type thing. But yeah, they could be coming from a loudspeaker. So he orders a terrible flood of earth. Yes, there shall come a great destruction over the whole earth, and there shall be a deluge, and there shall be a great punishment on the earth, and the earth shall be cleansed from all impurity. So after that, the great glory selects a few to survive so the human population can recover until he returns. He says, "And I saw other lightnings and the star of heaven, and I saw how they weighed in on the righteous balance according to their proportions of light, the width of their spaces, and the day of their appearing." So Von Daniken thinks this is a description of astronomy and how stars are classified. Weighed in righteous balance means magnitude. Portions of light means brightness. The width of their spaces, relative position, as well as the date of their discovery, which is the date of their appearing. And Enoch is learning all of this through Uriel and Pravui, who are the two angels who were kind of like, "Please, could you go up and Now, in their mine eyes saw the secrets of the lightning and the thunder. This lightning and thunder thing is so interesting to me because it's like, is he just seeing like just propulsion? Is he seeing rocket boosters? Like, what is he seeing?
Right. And like you said earlier, like he has such limited description. He doesn't know. All he can see is it's probably not fire. It's just like another type of light.
Yes.
But he only knows the word fire.
He only knows fire. It's kind of like, in the simplest of terms, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. That whole movie, you got all of these people they're plucking into obscurity. AD, BC, Western. He's like fucking talking to Socrates. And guess what? Socrates doesn't know what to do when he's at a music store in a mall in the 1980s.
Right.
He's not going to, how is he going to explain it? He's not going to use Keanu Reeves and he's not going to use Bill or Ted's dialect or vernacular or vocabulary because he doesn't fucking have it.
Right.
Anything that's bright is going to be shiny. Mm-hmm. You know, even when you read
the sun, lightning, or fire.
Yeah.
Like whatever.
What he knows, but also whatever he also knows. Of course, he knows what the sun is. He knows what, lightning is because he experiences it like on Earth.
Like if somebody looks at this lamp, they're like, how did you harness the sun?
Exactly.
That's what you know.
Yes.
You don't think light bulb electricity, all that stuff to make it.
And that's also what makes it infuriating because it's kind of like, you don't even have to go back that far in history. You can go back to, if you try to explain a fucking iPhone to a Nazi, that ain't that long ago. Mm-mm. So you're talking about a long fucking time. Now this part was interesting too. So he learned the secrets of the clouds and the dew. And he said he saw the chambers of the sun and the moon, whence they proceed and whither they come again in their glorious return, and how one is superior to the other in their stately orbit, and how they do not leave their orbit, and they add nothing to their orbit, and they take nothing from it. And after that, I saw the hidden and the visible path of the moon, and how she accomplishes the course of her path in that place by day and by night. And after that,
that's deep.
The secrets of the lights and the lightning were shown to me, and they lightened for blessing and for satisfying the earth. For the thunder has places of rest assigned to it while it's waiting for its peak, and the thunder and lightning are inseparable. And although not one and undivided, they both go together through the spirit and the separate not. For when the lightning lightens, the thunder utters its voice.
He just be spilling all the tea on all the universe. Just saying, I know everything and why it happens.
I'm sorry. Bars. Fucking bars. If this was a goddamn, Freestyle Friday right now, Enoch would be winning, okay?
No.
And it's very poetic, obviously, and these are translated. You know that there's going to be some manipulation of the text. Things get lost in translation all the fucking time. Mm-hmm. Now Uriel teaches Enoch about the treasuries of light and thunder, and he says Von Daniken says the gigantic reservoir of electrical charge that builds up in the variously charged levels of clouds and come down from the storm to earth is called the treasuries of light and thunder. Now, Enoch also talks about learning from Uriel the movements of the moon and sun, like I told you. And he even mentions the sun. He says, the book of the courses of the luminaries of the heaven, the relations of each according to their classes, their dominion, and their seasons. This is a lot of information pre-Copernicus.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, he knows that he doesn't know why. He also knows the secrets of, when he says that he sees the path of the moon, like that's some fucking, and that's some fucking LSD shit.
It is. He's like, that's like I'm high on DMT and I'm pretty sure I saw God. That's
seeing the trail of the moon right now. Like, it's, you don't.
Right. And he says, at first there goes forth the great luminary named the sun, and his circumference is like the circumference of heaven, and he is quite filled with illuminating and heating fire. And the sun goes down from the heaven, returns through the north in order to reach the east. And when the sun rises in heaven, he comes forth through that fourth portal 30. Mornings in succession and sets accurately in the fourth portal in the west of the heaven. And it's like, is that 4:00? Is that 4:30?
Right.
And during this period, the day becomes daily longer and the night nightly shorter. Now, here's the thing too. He's on Earth. He's a human. He could easily be monitoring the sun's movement.
The seasons.
And the same he mentions about the moon. He says it's a smaller luminary, which is named the moon. Her rising and setting change every month. Her days are like the days of the sun when her light is uniform, which is full. It amounts to the 7th part of the light of the sun, and thus she rises. And her first phase in the east comes forth on the 30th morning. And on that day, she becomes visible and constitutes for her the first phase of the moon. And the 1/2 of her goes forth by a 7th part, and her whole circumference is empty without light, with the exception of 1/7 part of it and the 14th part of her light. And all these things Uriel, the holy angel, who is the leader of them all, showed me in their proportions, and I wrote down their positions as he showed them to me. In single 7 parts, she accomplishes all her light in the east, and in a single 7th part, accomplished all her darkness in the west.
So he was basically presented with the first almanac.
Yeah. He not only is monitoring the sun's movement, he also seems to understand that the moon is a satellite and that it gets its light from the sun. He also seems to understand the orbit, but he calls them portals. And for him to understand the elliptical path is, to me, very indicative that the earth is a sphere. So for y'all,
we be round, y'all. We be round.
I'm gonna need for y'all chill with that flat earth shit. It's bad weird. It's bad weird. Now, he, because it seems like even reading that, it's like, did he know that we only see one side of the moon? You know what I mean? Like it moves with us. That's what makes the moon is just people talk about the sun. And I'm no disrespect, because we would definitely need the sun.
Definitely.
So I'm not trying to put that in the universe. I fucking love looking at the sun in recent years, because I didn't used to. But I will fucking say what a little moonlight can do. Okay, in the words of Billie Holiday, moonlight, sex during a full moon is not just like it's not even just like atmosphere. Ooh, the moon's out there. Like it's energetic.
It's energy.
It's energetic. Sure. And for him too, because I have somehow developed this very strong kinship with the moon in recent months, I guess. Yeah. Maybe it's been a little bit, maybe it's been like almost a year. And I went through this phase where I was like reading all this stuff about the moon. And then even like, I was like, oh my God, he's like referencing her as a she.
Right. In the female sense.
Yeah. And I know that the moon is like a big part of like the tides and there's so much to it. And
it's also a part of us because we're mostly water.
Exactly.
So it fucks with us.
And that's where I was going with it too, is the fact that like me chemically, I'm going to respond on a biological level to the moon. I'm going to. And the only reason why I feel like people don't, if they feel like they don't, that's because they don't pay attention to it. I think, and this is going to sound corny, but I think that if people would just look up, they'll realize how fucking small they are. And do you realize how big, like how easy and simple of a movement that is to simply just look in the sky? We're not talking about just like, stare at the sun, be creepy. Like, no, like
just understand, like, first of all, it's not falling out of the sky.
It's not.
It's out there. It's reflecting light.
It is.
It's another rock out there that's reflecting light to us, so we can see and the different forces that it pulls on us. Yeah, makes us do what we do. Yeah. And I think, like, to me, I had recently told somebody, I was like, I've learned that the reason why I am the way I am, and the reason why, like, sometimes I'm just like this fucking wheel of fortune of information is because I'm just curious of everything. And even when like not anything down here like that, well, obviously I do a podcast about shit that happens on earth, but I'm just saying, like, how people are obsessed with like trees and like they feel this bond, and I'm an earth sign. Me too.
Yeah, but I feel more one with the celestial than what's down here. And it may be too because I'm exposed to down here, and I feel like we have a better understanding of what we can see and what we can touch. And that's, but that's why underwater also incredibly fascinates me, even though I have a very real fear probably of drowning. I do not know how to swim, But I feel like it's kind of like when we watched that Infinity documentary.
Mm-hmm. It's like the understanding is just
it's too vast, even though the galaxies, and maybe it's because I can't swim and I don't understand the concept that I feel this way. But like the reality of like not knowing how deep parts of the ocean goes is fucking terrifying to me. Mm-hmm. A little more terror.
The fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
That's your fear of
But even then it's like, but space doesn't do that. Space doesn't do that. Space is, and maybe too, because space feels so big that it doesn't feel like it smothers you. It feels like it gives you way too much room.
Yeah.
Your
bond is with something that it has been studied. People have gone out there, so you kind of feel a little bit better. We don't know anything because we can't get to the abyss. Like there's no way possible for a human to go deep as we've gone that deep. So that's the fear also that's basically implanted us.
That's true.
We don't know what's in there either.
No, we don't. And I feel like whatever is in there is a little scarier.
Fuck yeah. I mean, shit. Things that are undiscovered. Yeah. You talk about undiscovered.
Yeah.
And it's in your water.
In your water.
Here, in the oceans.
Just
like
we
have lakes.
Yeah. But just chilling in the lake. In the ocean. Mm-hmm. I watched that. I think I sent it to you on Instagram. It was a video where they kind of like broke the ocean levels down based on like items that we have in like, like, oh, this is as deep as the Eiffel Tower. Then this is as deep,
like buildings building.
And then it just kept going down, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I am about to throw up. Mm-hmm. This is that infinity thing.
That's the infinity thing. When people think about that, they actually physically get nauseous or sick.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Yeah, and maybe too because I feel like the Earth has to have a bottom. It's just how deep is that bottom versus like space, where it's like, does it just keep going?
It just keeps going. It just keeps going.
Okay, so Enoch, I can kind of get into that. He was, because it's like, doesn't matter. They talk about like where he was born, and it was like
Isn't he supposed to be the great grandfather
of Noah?
Of Noah.
We're going to talk about that.
Correct. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Now Enoch was born on the 6th day of the month of Sivan. Obviously, we don't know what that is, and lived 365 years, which I said. Mm-hmm. He wrote 366 books and handed them over to his sons and remained on earth 30 days and was taken to heaven on the 6th day of the month of Sivan and on the very day and hour when he was born. So Methuselah and his brethren, all the sons of Enoch, made haste and erected an altar at the place called Ashuzan, whence and where Enoch had been taken to the heaven. Now, okay, things kind of get fucked up because, of course, he gets wrapped up his earthly. So this is what Michael says. Well, the Lord said to Michael, which is like, whatever. You see what I'm going with this, because this is now just like a more Christian interpretation. Go and take Enoch from his earthly garments and anoint him with a sweet ointment and put him in the garments of glory. And Michael did thus as the Lord told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that ointment is more than the great light, and his ointment is like sweet dew, and it smells as myrrh, shining like
No. This is getting dirty.
To you.
To me. Shit, I was like, damn, what the fuck is this? Macaque?
Feel like this is getting sexy. Enoch getting a little sexy. Shining like the sun's rays. And I looked at myself and I was like one of the glorious ones. Now it's two extraterrestrials. Like he said, the likes of which he never saw on earth, collected Enoch, disinfected him, dressed him in what was probably a spacesuit, and brought him to the command bridge of a mothership, and God welcomed him with his, quote, voice. This is what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. He then gave instructions that Enoch was to be giving a reed of quick writing, and then a subaltern named Pravui was given the task of dictating scientific books to him for days on end. So that's him getting the information. He said, behold, from their seed shall arise another generation much later, but of them many will be very insatiate. He also raises that generation shall reveal to them the books of thy handwriting of thy father, to them to whom he must point out the guardianship of the world, to the faithful men and the workers of my pleasure. We do not acknowledge my name in vain, and they shall tell another generation, and those others having read shall be glorified thereafter more than those before. So Enoch's final departure obviously happens after 30 days of teaching, and it occurs when, ultimately when he's born, the time. And then he speaks to them and he basically tells them, he's like, look, y'all got this. Peace be with you. Peace be with you.
Peace out.
I'm about to go. I'm busy. I've been here for a long time. 365 fucking years is a long time to be somewhere. And so he ascended into the heaven. Now, they sought a place for him to ascend into the heaven. And when they came to the site, they found that the ground was covered in snow and great stones. They say they were as snowstones. Now, you know what that makes me think of is
like
that
a glacier?
Like maybe he ascended in like a cold place like Antarctica. You know what I mean? Because you got to remember, this is also predates the continental drift.
Correct.
So it's like, who knows where it was for real? Because we've also seen episodes of Ancient Aliens where they go in those fucking ice caves and they were like, this place is big enough for a whole motherfucking ship to be down here, like moving around. It was like an underground highway in ice. Like how?
Correct.
So
that's a whole other episode too.
Look, shoot. Okay. And you know what else comes up in this one? Darren Kuyu.
The underground city? Oh, shoot.
So they shoveled away the snow. Oh, wait. So basically, he gets there, there's snow. They spoke to one another and they said, let us shovel away this snow to see if those who followed Enoch lie under it. And they shoveled away the snow and found those who had accompanied Enoch lying dead. They also sought Enoch, but they found him not, for he had ascended into heaven. This happened in 130th year of the life of Lamech, the son of Methuselah, as Enoch ascended into heaven. Now, Enoch, he does mention that he is supposed to return, which is also a concept we've seen with Elijah, with Jesus Christ, and Mahdi in India. And in conclusion, Enoch, he basically just dipped the fuck off, and his followers were like, okay, we came to visit, and they all got burned up by whatever. Yeah. And the way this fiery chariot, it's kind of like, maybe the rocket was going off and they were underneath it.
Like they got
burned the fuck up.
They literally got burned up by the flames of the rocket.
Yes. Now
or ship. Well,
sure.
We don't know.
We don't know, but I'm just saying a chariot. A chariot
of fire.
Yeah. Now the connection to the story of Noah is interesting because basically Noah was selected before he was born. Now that's according to Ancient Aliens, not necessarily Von Daniken. The pieces of the Book of Enoch would also be found in the Dead Sea Scrolls because several copies of the earlier section of 1 Enoch were preserved among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Not to mention the fact that they realized that they were finding all these caves. They were finding pieces of the Enoch all over the fucking place. And they're like, but they're always in these like really obscure locations. Like there was one, and I think it was in Asia, where there was like these holes on the side of a mountain.
In the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, so what they think is that for safekeeping, because he knew there was going to be floods, there were parts of his word placed in different places to avoid being damaged.
Right. He went to like the highest point and put them somewhere.
Now, the records also show that Noah looked strange. He said that he had glowing skin, his hair was of wool, and Bethnos, who was Noah's mom, had been inseminated by the gods. And that was according to Enoch. Because, of course, Bethnos is being questioned. Noah's father was like, excuse me, I was away when you were pregnant.
Why
so
are you pregnant, by the way?
Explain yourself. And so...
How?
So he basically goes to he's like, yo, I need you to talk to Enoch. I need to talk to Enoch because you need to tell me why my wife is pregnant. And that's when Enoch was like, oh, yeah, she was inseminated by the gods. So Hate to break it to you. She didn't really cheat on you during your travels, but
yeah,
she did get pregnant. And so the God figure that's in the Book of Enoch is trying to help humans rid themselves of the Nephilim. But later, when they started to do like all these different versions of Noah's flood, they started to say that, oh, you know, the bad humans, they're just bad humans. Like, no, if it was the Nephilim, they were cannibal giants, because the Nephilim also ate people.
Yeah, they were the hybrids of...
Yeah, they were space people / humans. They didn't know genetics. They were like, we don't know what these motherfuckers going to become. And so the captain, the god or whatever, had basically decided, you know, we're gonna clean all this shit up. How about that?
Start over.
But the point is that later the god became a vengeful one instead of one that was trying to help the human race rid itself of the Nephilim. Mm-hmm. So scientifically, it's believed that the reason why the flood even happened was because a massive solar flare caused the ice caps to melt, therefore flooding the earth. So now we're going to sum it up with this. I thought this was very pretty that Von Daniken wrote. I mean, it's probably not pretty, but I thought it was interesting. He said, even today, we live in a kind of puzzling dream world. The TV screen is like a magic mirror that brings us pictures of military maneuvers in Iraq, political events from Peru, or expeditions to the South Pole, all delivered to our living rooms at the touch of a button. We experience the assassination of a U.S. president, and then just a short time later, we see the same man, risen from the dead, it seems, talking and smiling at us from the flickering screen. We watch science programs showing discoveries made under the microscope. We never know what is truth and what is simply propaganda. We gape at a rocket as rockets launch and stare in wonder at the International Space Station that's buzzing by somewhere over our heads, shining like a weak star, when the planet Earth finally shakes off its infestation of human beings. Which I was like, wow. Heaven alone knows how our successors on this world will describe the past. Just imagine, dear reader, the same catastrophe were to hit the Earth. It doesn't matter what, but somewhere on the peak of some isolated Swiss Alp, a ragged few have somehow survived. And you can rest assured that they would do everything they could to ensure that the species survived and start producing children as soon as possible. And one proud father, sitting with his son on his knee, would look up as an excessively large mutated mountain eagle soared by their cabin. Look, son, the father would say, pointing. When I was younger, there were metal birds, hundreds of them, larger than the eagle, and people could sit in the belly of the bird and look out of the windows onto the earth below. These mighty birds flew faster than an arrow over the great water to a place where houses were built so high they reached up into the clouds. The father grows old and dies, and the son himself becomes a father. Now the young father retells the story for his young son. Just imagine, my son, your grandfather told me that there were once giant birds in which people could sit and look down on earth beneath them. And these birds flew faster than an arrow and could even cross the mighty water to a place where the houses grew up in the clouds. Already, by the second generation, the story is unfeasible. So just try and imagine what happens when many generations later, theologians try and analyze these scenes from their religious, psychological standpoint. It's likely that the watchers are still around us. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the reason why I say that too is because, and I mentioned Darren Kuyu, because there's an episode of Ancient Aliens where they get deeper into the Watchers. I think you were the one that told me about it originally. Or you told me about the Shining ones.
I told you about the Shining ones. I didn't talk about the Watchers.
So they do mention how they could have possibly had their hand, these Watchers, had their hand in what we do and always have, and they haven't gone anywhere. Because it's believed the Watchers that did exist then resorted into hiding during the flood. This is what they're thinking during the flood. And when they did that, they created these little things like Darren Kuyu to go underground.
Oh, their caverns to go down.
Mm-hmm. And they think that even still, because, Nowadays you have this concept of the Watchers that is also murkied by the Illuminati. I mean, that's the thing too. It does come up in those types of things. They actually mentioned it in the episode, like one of the orders originally, the Knights Templar and their relationship with the Watchers. Because it's always what it always stems from is somebody who thinks that they are communicating with someone that knows way more than everybody else. Right. There's like that special connection, whether it be an Egyptian pharaoh, because we also know that Egyptian pharaohs, even though they had like a polytheistic religion, they had their own gods, but their interpretation of all these different gods sound a lot like these fallen angels. You know what I mean? Where they all have their own skill, something that they're contributing. This is the goddess of fertility. This is the god of this. This is the goddess of that. And they're all bringing their knowledge of wherever they're getting it from to regular old people.
Right.
So the question is, and this is what Ancient Alien touches on, are the people that we have been thinking were people, whether they've been, have elongated skulls, all these unique, physiological, biological, whatever deficiencies, whatever, is it possible that who these people were interacting with this entire time when they felt like they needed to have these monuments and these, whether they be portals or doorways or whatever, what if they were gods? What if they were the Watchers?
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that going back to even what you were talking about, this is a little bit off of what you just said, but in my stream of consciousness, I wanted to say it before I lost it.
Yeah.
Is how you said, there were 200 angels that came down basically at one time and they descended on the earth and they did stuff. I would think that the distribution would be all around the earth, not just one and then move around.
Yes.
Do you remember we were talking about the word dragon?
Yes.
They all have the same, but it's still the same dial. It comes from the same origination.
Yes.
So maybe it was like those people had their own language.
And so they made it in their image.
That word. Yeah. And whoever they interacted with, made their own word out of that word.
Yes, absolutely.
And also there was another episode that I watched where invention was happening simultaneously.
Okay.
Without communication of those two scientists.
Sure. Yes. Yes.
And it happened the same time, but
yes,
you would think like
it
was the same information.
And I know what you're talking about too, because it was Tesla.
Yes.
It was Tesla and that other dude. I can't remember the other dude's name. It wasn't Edison though, because Edison just ripped Tesla off.
Basically. But it's like at that time there was no real communication. It's not like, hey bro, I'm working on this thing, can you help me out? Like I just need that one last formula. It's like, but when you look back on each of those person's histories, it happened on the same day.
Yes.
So it's kind of the simultaneous thing is happening too, to where you they must have been fed this information at the same time somehow from other entities. Like it can't just be one entity. No. That's hard to believe.
No, absolutely not. There's a collection. There's a group. If there are entities at all, there's a group of them. And I think that, I don't know. My biggest issue, and like I said before, is that it's all, you just be open to it.
I can see how we get God and whoever is our creator, we look up to the heavens for them. Look at Mount Olympus. We, they're ascended into the heavens, and we want to meet the gods and we want to be them. And yet I get it. I feel like there's a root of a story.
Sure.
We will just never know what the real truth is.
We won't. But that's the fun part.
It's the mysterious part. I think that's what makes it all so much more interesting. It's like not knowing the answer is fun, and then knowing the answer and figuring it out is kind of like, oh, see?
Yeah, see? And that's the thing. It's like I think the fun is picking up the pieces one by one. These people at this point, their only option is to pick up the pieces one by one. We gotta discover shit. It's not like, oh, it's over there in the mountain. No.
Yeah, we found
it. That may take hundreds of thousands of years. We're talking about shit that so old, that it was old when they found it, and it's like even older now. You know, it's like these
the
discoveries.
Now, like even like you were talking about, one of the angels came down and was teaching alchemy and like how to, meld these metals together and do whatever they were teaching.
Yeah.
Like they found there's a dagger that they found in, I think, King Tut's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I heard about this. Yeah.
And they analyzed it, and the elements that were in that dagger
don't exist on Earth.
Well, they would not have been able to be melted together at that time, because one of those metals was found,
not a thing.
It was somewhere else, and they wouldn't have had the technology to melt it.
Right. Oh, right.
But also it was not sharpened. It was molded.
Yeah. Wow.
And there's no mold. There's no mold found. There's no, like, they would not have been able to.
It's like, where did he get this from?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was so smooth that it was basically poured,
and
it
I know
metal
what you
doesn't
mean.
dry.
It cools.
You know what I mean? It cools, and it formed the dagger.
Yeah.
Well, most of the times they were sharp. They would sharpen daggers to make a,
for sure. Edge. Yeah. To sharpen
so they're
it
like
up.
this. There's no way that this could happen at this time when it found amongst his items.
Yeah,
there's no
absolutely
way.
No. So, and that's the thing. It's with everything. It's like they find something, and look, I know that as human beings, we are pretty fucking advanced. And we got advanced very quick. I know we all make these jokes like, oh, Elon Musk is an alien, like low key. Ancient Aliens did a whole episode on Steve Jobs that I ran into. And I was kind of like, I think it's important to realize that there are some people who sit around and they just can read code, or they like this isn't just limited to like technology that we are now so used to using, like cell phones and computers and shit. You think of like what Neil deGrasse Tyson like reads on a whiteboard,
right?
All of this math, all of these letters,
Einstein,
none of that shit makes any fucking sense to anyone else.
Right.
How do you know?
Right.
What? How? And even let's say Einstein was a scam. You got motherfuckers just like so curious about how to create something or whatever, that they study their entire lives to perfect it.
Right. All throughout time. Like,
and then they die.
Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah. And then they die. Like they make these huge impacts. Steve Jobs died. They make these, because what we don't, I think what a lot of people, we realize now for sure, is that the invention of the iPhone put us exactly where we are on a technological level. That one device, just the iPhone. Because looking at the keynote, I kind of looked at a couple of clips from the keynote speech that he did when he released the first iPhone, and being like, I have a phone that folds in half. That's what came from that. Like, we have cameras. That first iPhone didn't even really like have. Did it have a camera?
I don't remember.
And we were like not too far away from like fan and Polaroids. We were not that far from that when we got the iPhone.
Exactly.
So I think that it's important sometimes to even look at people like that, and we could think that it's a joke, but you can't read or understand anything that Steve Jobs does. Ask yourself that fucking question. Why? Even let's say you go to school for 5 minutes. It'd be one thing if you were like, I can read. Like, yeah, I can read a book about astrophysics, but
you'll never understand.
But I'll never understand the content for real. And there are certain people that do. Where do they get that from? We can, like we talked about before, panspermia and like going down, doing that terraform and shit, going to other planets and like taking our DNA and trying to make it in like, you know what I mean?
See if it sticks.
Yeah.
Let's see if it grows.
That's kind of by the end of the part that I read about Book of Enoch, that's kind of where he gets into it too, where he's like, what if we were just an experiment? What if we ultimately
they're like, let's mate with the Earthlings and see what happens.
But then when they cleared the Earth out, what the Watchers started doing was secretly giving the humans information. How they do it, don't know. But they would start to give the humans secretly information, which leads to the advancement of the human existence, whether it be through medical science. Some of the things, look, we did. COVID has been fucked up, but that shit lasted 3 years, and the motherfuckers had a vaccine in a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A global pandemic. I mean, I was literally like, yo, is this how zombie apocalypse movies start? Mm-hmm. Is this where and I'm not saying that still can't be the case, but what we know is that they were bright minds, people who were incredibly smart. We can leave it up to chance. We can say that it's random. We can say, oh, that person just got lucky. Nah, motherfucker. This ain't the lottery. Mm-mm. That motherfucker is getting information from something.
Mm-hmm. Getting fed information somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Receiving it, maybe like Enoch, like through a dream or through visions or
but you know how Steve Jobs had the idea of the iPhone.
Was it a dream?
He was at a wellness retreat and deep in meditation.
Oh, shit. He used to frequent those a lot, huh?
Because especially after he got sick and shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Motherfucker was at a wellness retreat vibing the fuck out and ended. I don't know if he was like doing some shit, like if he was doing some DMT or whatever, but he was trying to decompress. He was a stressful person. Before that, he had Macintosh. He was still dealing with Apple. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it came to him. How can I change the world? And it popped right in his head. Dude, now, they also say that sometimes when you sit still, that's when the universe is the loudest. But we tend to just like be so chaotic and want to distract ourselves constantly. I started being in my apartment with shit off more often. Mm-hmm.
I started sleeping without the television.
Yeah, me too. Oh my God. We're like on the same frequency.
We are always. Because I even just like experimented with myself saying like, you know what? I'm tired of hearing shit when I go to bed.
Yeah.
I kind of want to hear what I think about my day.
Yeah.
And fuck and not. If anyone from the app Calm is listening to this, do not take offense. I was trying to use Calm. I was trying to like meditate. I was trying to hear the ocean water. I was trying to hear sleep stories. I was trying to do all this shit. And I kept finding myself just shutting it off.
Yeah.
And I would just lay there and I would just think about my day, think about, what I'm going to do. Not necessarily like being, this stressful, I'm going to keep myself awake.
Yeah.
But just like listening to myself.
Yeah.
And listening to what I learned. Like, you kind of like digress back into a child. Like, what did I learn today?
Yeah.
What did I do today? Who did I meet today?
Yeah.
Am I happy right now? Am I going to sleep happy? Am I going to sleep mad? Am I, what should I let go? Blah, 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 blah. But yeah, once you feel the quiet, other things come to you.
It does. And because we don't because obviously we don't have that much access to all of our brain. We don't have really any access to our brain. So sometimes just thinking like, you know what, I'm going to just shut up for a minute. But, recently my current, journey, as with trying to just like, I don't know if I even want to call it, get back to what my version of normal is, but it's like you want the distraction because from an external standpoint, it's easier to focus on, right?
Correct.
But having to go through therapy and having to actually talk to myself a lot, which I've got back to the habit of actually talking to myself, like in a mirror. Mm-hmm. It has helped kind of just like shift things around me. I'm like always getting complimented now. Mm-hmm. There was a period where I was like never getting complimented. And I'm not even just talking about like physical shit. I'm talking about like motherfuckers who just like, I don't know what the fuck you doing, but that's dope. You know what I mean? Like who just felt like they needed to say some nice shit to me.
Right. And you're drawing energy. It's energy.
Yeah.
They're being attracted to your essence of a person as a human.
Yeah.
I've had somebody even just like maybe 2 weeks ago. I don't know. Remember what I was like. I don't even go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yeah.
I randomly went to Starbucks. It was down the street. You already know me. I don't like making coffee.
Yes.
I'll wait till I can find coffee somewhere if it's available, whatever. But I ended up walking down the street to Starbucks. And they walked across the room and they came over like, I just felt like I needed to say hello to you today. Mm-hmm. And I was, and you kind of feel like, okay, freak.
I love those.
But then you think like, that was nice.
That was nice.
It was nice of them to say.
Yeah.
They didn't say, oh, you look, it wasn't like a pickup line. It wasn't like, have I seen you here before? Yeah. That bullshit. It was just kind of like, I just felt like I need
But
to
you know
hi.
what? I'm going to take that back. It's not nice. It's kind.
It's kind.
And that's what I've been trying to use that word a little bit more than nice. Because people, dickheads can be nice to you.
They could have chose to keep it to themselves also and just been like.
Yeah. Been thinking it, not caring about whether or not it made you feel good or not by not telling you. Like I kind of always, I'll tell a bartender he's cute, even boy, girl, whatever. Oh my God, you are too pretty, and I think that like what I was really saying too was just like psychologically trying to really just assess everything, being a little, instead of being so go, 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 go gadget, I'm kind of like taking that beat. It's helpful. Because it gives me the opportunity to just think for a minute. And I think that the quiet is where the thinking starts.
Yes, you should take a moment to think about things. Everyone always wants to be so witty, so quick, so, everything on a dime. I have a rebuttal. Like, I'm ready for anything. No, you're not. You're not ready. Because
we are like, we have turned into a society of like guns drawn, fucking safety off.
Correct.
You see what I mean? Like I was like, there was a period where we were just always, just as human beings, always kind of firing off a warning shot. But it wasn't even a warning shot. It was just like, I'm warning you, like, stop fucking with me. Now it just feel like now we're shifting into this thing of like, no, I'm just going to shoot you. Fuck it. It's not a good thing. So it makes me wonder if like, and they asked this in Ancient Aliens. They're like, yo, we don't know what the goal is. If we're being experimented on, we think it's something positive. We don't know that it ain't nothing negative. But what we know is they get involved. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but I always go back to that Men in Black scene at the end of that movie when they show K and J and they kick open that door and it is a locker in like an alien space station. That's like, damn, y'all just dirty socks in an old bus terminal in space.
Your existence means nothing to nobody.
In the grand scheme, there's so much more going on than you arrogant fucks.
You arrogant fucks for sure. Like I don't know.
I had a whole speech with myself too, where I was like, was it this morning or was it yesterday? It was probably this morning. Well, I just like be hyping myself up in my head all the fucking time. And I don't feel bad about it anymore. Because, there was a period where like, it wasn't even that I felt insecure. Like,
did you feel
I hate myself?
Small type of guilt about being a better person?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
And that, that just, because my Instagram summary is never be like afraid to be a powerful motherfucker. And that has been my Instagram summary since I got on Instagram. And I'm now getting to a point where I believe it.
You must have had it somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. Because sometimes it's superficial. And then it's not until you start digging that you're like, oh, okay, so I'm going to fill that hole with this because that feels better. It's like you beating yourself up or like over pressuring. Like I had a moment. I think I was going out with somebody. Nah, I can't remember. But it was like I thought I lost my grandmother's bracelet. Right? And it's a gold bracelet. It has a shitty latch on it. I knew it was shitty, but I wanted to wear it. And I had been wearing it. So I kind of tested the universe and was like, it's not going to fall. Right? So one day I went to like Costco. I went blue. I went everywhere. And I was like, where's my grandmother's bracelet? It fell off. So I was in the house. I was alone. I was like, I'm going to listen to Beyonce. I'm going to chill because I'm trying not to get upset because I knew very motherfucking well I should never wear that bracelet. I need to get it repaired. Like I went through a full whirlwind of like, you dumbass bitch.
Jesus.
And it wasn't
beating yourself up.
I mean, beating myself clean the fuck up to a point where I was just like, you know what? It is what it is. And I kept saying in my head, it is what it is. So then the following morning, because I looked around for it a little bit, like check my purse, check my this, but I was not going to lose sleep over it. I was like, Brittany, because this will be on like a fucking carousel forever if you don't stop thinking about it now.
Correct.
So then finally go downstairs on that following morning, got in the car, didn't think about the bracelet, didn't think about anything, put my purse on the seat, and then got to work. Picked the purse up off the seat. There's the fucking bracelet.
It found its way back to you.
And I was like, it was probably there. It was definitely there the whole time. I didn't go back to the car to look for it. I looked in my purse. I looked in my coat pocket. I was like, but I went to Costco. That shit's probably gone. I walked from the front door to the car a bunch of times. It's probably gone. And that acceptance, eventually I just like forgot about it. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that like the magic of forgetting about it makes it feel better or makes things appear. I'm just saying that release of just being like, Brittany, you have way more control over your brain than you give yourself credit for. Mm-hmm. Stop fucking spiraling.
Dumb. It's not dumb, but it's, that saying, don't sweat the small stuff.
Yes.
Like, it's an inanimate object.
And
you've had it for as long as you were supposed to have it.
That's it. That was literally
really what
the
you
story.
got to put yourself to.
That was literally what I told myself. My time with it is over. Mm-hmm. That's how I had to look at Riley. That's how I had to look at everything that I've been going through the last like 4 months.
Right.
So, this was a deep ass episode.
Yeah, I think that's pretty deep. I like the content. I like the story. I mean, I know there's a lot more to him.
Yeah.
Enoch.
Yeah. He's a wild boy. He was busy. 365 years. I hope you all enjoyed this. It's a definite deviation of the last like 10 episodes. I mean,
mayhem.
I did Mothman. Then I went on an LA spree where I did like fucking 5 episodes on a bunch of shit from LA. And then I have another one that Michael told me about today that I'm gonna probably do. Nice. So
some upcoming subjects.
Yeah, but I hope to do more of these because the whirlpool. What?
What you trying to say?
What's it called? When things just spiral.
Whirlwind.
Okay. That fucking hole I fell into was like, I stopped listening to the audiobook and actually started reading the book.
Oh shit.
So
turning the pages?
Yeah. I think of course it was still digital. Come on.
Oh, digital. Okay. I was like, did you pick up a book?
No. But I think I'm gonna finish it though, because it was good. So I definitely recommend it. It was Eric Von Daniken's History is Wrong. And I also put the episodes of Ancient Aliens in the notes. So if you want to go back, check those episodes out. Boom. I hope I converted some of y'all. I'm mad that like the Ancient Aliens thing is only in Pasadena, the convention.
Oh, the convention. No, that's true. It's not like a traveling convention.
No, it's only in Pasadena. That's fucking irritating.
One day, hopefully it moves around.
I'm like, I almost sent the Instagram like, when are you all coming to Chicago? And then I was gonna contact you because you talked to that Hallmark chick that be doing that shit. Didn't you say you talked to her? And so I'm kind of like,
Which chick?
The one that hosts the conventions. Remember you went to the Hallmark thing?
Yeah. She hosts. She does. She like organizes conventions.
That's what I'm saying. Like organize one with Georgia Sakalos, David Childress. He sometimes he gets on my nerves, but that's really just how he speaks.
Yeah.
The rabbi, can't remember his name. The black dude with the locks, can't remember his name. Mm-hmm. And then fuck it, throw in Eric Von Daniken if he's of traveling age.
Right.
Because he's pretty old.
If he's of traveling.
So
if he can handle the trip.
I hope this doesn't have an echo. And I'm gonna tell you something. Even if it does, I'm still posting it. Because that can't be redone. I wouldn't even bother. I'd be like, fuck it, do a whole new episode.
And if it is, we can just blame it on the watchers. They won't fuck with that. So that's the bottom line. They're still listening.
All right, y'all. Peace out. Bye.